welcome to the first episode of
Generation Gap!
First episode!
Yay! We have just had a brilliant chat, which we're really excited to share with you. What did we talk about, Emma?
We talked about things becoming more informal, like fashion
Yes.
and words.
Oh, speaking of words, Emma gives me some tests of some slang,
Tech slang.
where I have to guess what it means, and I didn't do too badly.
Very well, very well. Did very well. So yes, please feel free to comment any suggestions or thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And please enjoy!
Enjoy!
So here we are in the garden.
Yes. Talking about what we want to do with our podcast.
What do we want to do in our podcast?
Well, I love the name Generation Gap. I think that is really cool. And I'm really, really excited about what we can do with that and this idea of finding things that are different and the same between our generations.
Definitely. Because I think, and we've talked about this before, I think what's interesting about us is I think most mothers and daughters don't see eye to eye on anything at all. It's like, oh, I hate you, go away, and storm up to their room. Whereas I think we're very
And
lucky.
that's just the mums.
Exactly. Oh, God. No, but I think what's lovely about our relationship is that we are a lot closer than most people. So I think we do see eye to eye on, I think, like 70% of things. You know what I mean? And where we don't, we respect each other. We're not, like, annoyed and barriers come down.
So I think hopefully that will make for interesting discussions.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we definitely have a lot of fun and we laugh a lot. So that's really cool. And I think you really challenge me in my views because you are you have a younger take on things, and I hope I sort of, in my head anyway, I'm reasonably young at heart.
Yeah, oh no, you are.
But at the end of the day, I'm 57. So it's
no
wonderful.
reason to apologise. Not that you are, but you know.
But you definitely sort of pull me up sometimes, and not in a sort of judgy way, but you just make me think, oh yeah, actually that's really interesting. So
same with you though. Same with you. Puts things into perspective. It's like, hang on, that's true. Like, I don't know, just like a tendency to, like, at my age, to just be really sucked into, like, what's everyone doing on Instagram? And I feel like you really help me sort of get perspective, and I don't know, just...
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But also, I think you've managed that really well yourself, because you've got that, what's the app that you do? It's...
Be Real.
Be Real, which I think is such a really cool idea. And I think this idea of breaking out of that restriction and that need to perform, and when I think back to how stressful it is being your age, a teenager anyway, just the act of being a teenager is bloody hard work. To then layer on top of that all the pressure from social media, I can't imagine how stressful that is. So I love that you found this coping strategy. I think it's amazing.
Definitely, thank you. And I think, I don't think it's just my generation have it really hard. I think that is a new thing, which is quite difficult. But, obviously you've also, at your age, had certain difficulties as well. So it's not just my generation's had it really hard, but I do see what you're saying. But yeah, Be Real, I talk about it a lot, as you know. And I just think it's quite exciting. I think we're just sort of heading into a more relaxed way of living.
So just remind me, with Be Real, so you take a photo.
So it's a bit confusing, so bear with me.
Okay.
So, once a day you get a notification where you need to take a photo of, what I like about it is it's your front camera and your back camera. So you see your face, it's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And then it's like, I don't know, say you're at a theme park, it's like you on a roller coaster, and then it's like
which I am every day of the week. Sorry, that sounded a bit sort of a put down. I was just joking.
No, not at all.
Just really live such a boring life as well.
No, not at all. I'm not a roller coaster person, as you know. No, so I don't know. I just really like it because you don't usually get that. You usually get one or the other, and it's quite interesting to see the person and
in their context.
Doing. Yeah, and what they're doing, absolutely. So the idea is that it goes off at a random point in the day. You don't know when it's going to go off. It's a bit confusing. So when you click on the app, so you get the notification, you can be cheeky, which I sometimes do, try not to do, sometimes. You can say, oh, I'm going ice skating in an hour, let's just save it for then, which I sometimes do. But you know what, we're human, so
Absolutely.
that's fine. But I do try and be quite honest.
Because you want, I think, just sorry to interrupt you, but I think maybe with these kind of things, it's important to keep them as fun as well.
That's
and
true.
if you get too strict with it, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm sat on the loo, I've got to take a
That
picture.
for once! Oh no!
You know, and then it stops being fun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It starts to be a chore, and I definitely think it's the
Balance,
same with
isn't it? With
everything.
everything is
yeah,
balance,
once it stops
absolutely.
being fun,
Yeah.
there's a limit to how long you're going to keep doing it, I think, or you're going to keep doing it and be miserable.
Yeah,
So
which because you know me, I love a good routine. So for example, and I will go back to Be Real in a minute, like, you know, I did my journaling
Yeah.
every day for a year. I just forgot to tell you, recently, sort of past month, I've stopped doing that.
oh,
Just because I really, really enjoyed it for like 9 months.
yeah,
And then 9, 10, 11, 12. The last 3, I just realised I was only doing it to keep that streak up. Because I
Yeah.
love a streak. And same with
Yeah.
like my French practice. Because I was,
Yeah.
you know, I was doing my French.
which is kind of ironic. Sorry to interrupt you, because it's almost like you're doing the journaling to help with your mental health.
Exactly.
And then
I'm
now
actually
it's
like,
actually-
it's a hassle,
Yeah.
and because I don't want to break the streak. So
Yeah.
I think that's really true, because the idea of journaling every day, oh, that sounds really great, and it is. I really think
Yeah.
it is. But I think it's good to just step back and be like, hang on, is
Yeah.
this stressing me out
Yeah.
or not? Which I think takes a bit of, you know.
Oh, it takes maturity,
difficult to
and
do
it takes a bit of
sometimes.
self-awareness as well,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
definitely.
You promised to tell me more about
Yes, be real. So I was going to go back to that, but I just thought that was interesting, isn't it? Because doing
Yeah.
something, as you said, is
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that's really healthy,
Um,
because otherwise you can just get locked into this
which I did
almost
for
like
about 3
treadmill
months.
of
Yeah. I
yeah.
did for a few months, and I thought, hang on, I'm not enjoying this.
Good
Let's
for you.
stop.
I
Yeah,
think that's
thank
amazing.
you.
Very proud.
Thank you. Same with you. But yes, Be Real. So the notification goes off at a random point in the day. You don't know when it's going to go off. And then when you click on it, you only have 2 minutes to take a photo,
Right.
which sounds like a long time, but it's not. When you're like
Yeah.
taking the picture, it's like, oh, I've got ages. As I said, of your face and what you're doing. And I think it's really nice, because you get to see what your friends are up to. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, right now, this person's on the bus. I don't know, it's quite fun. And it's
Yeah.
like right now, because usually, you know, Instagram, which I do love, but also think it is big old can of worms. It's like, this is my best moment. This is the best thing I got up to
Yeah,
this week.
yeah.
Whereas it's quite
Whereas,
interesting.
sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, my as a sort of older person's view, it's people saying, actually, this isn't my best moment. I'm always looking like this. It's like people trying to sell
That's
their best
true.
moments as if it's their
Yeah.
average moments.
And I mean,
And I
it's
think,
confusing that.
but I think that's the pressure of it, because everyone's sort of projecting this false reality. Because, and I can really understand it. Thank God I'm not into it, because I would be the worst. I'd be the most competitive,
Oh,
wanting, you know, the best garden and the best this, and to always look perfect. And I can really imagine getting sucked into that. And then the problem with that is everyone else sees that
you
facade,
got to keep it up.
and everyone else thinks that's your normal.
Exactly.
So then,
Yeah.
how does that make them feel about themselves when they have a?
And yourself as well, because
yeah,
you have to keep up this
exactly,
persona of like
exactly.
the perfect. You
It's
know,
like this kind of pyramid scheme of kind of showing off and
Interesting.
really resulting negative effects on self-worth,
exactly.
isn't it?
Yeah, and it just
So-
gets more and more extreme, because you
Yeah.
kind of, it's almost like you've got to push it each time to
Exactly.
like become more and more.
What I think's amazing is, you know, you've recognised that as a teenager, which is
Yeah.
fantastic, and even better than that, done something about it,
Oh.
which is wonderful. You know, I think perhaps social media, this is my generation speaking, it is a fantastic tool.
Yeah,
You
100%.
know,
I think it's
obviously
great.
it's, you know, we could list a whole load of good things like keeping connected and having fun and sharing funny.
And
With
keeping
that-
your memories in a
Yes.
certain way. And
And who
I've,
doesn't
like,
love a monkey on roller skates?
Exactly, very sweet video. But like, for example, my best friend Maya, who, you know, I love to bits, you know, I took, I don't know, 10 aerial arts classes with her 4 years ago, and then we didn't speak for a year and a half, but because we had each other on Instagram,
Yeah.
she saw my stories and started replying to them, and I started replying to hers.
Yeah.
So that actually did bring us together.
Amazing.
So I also do agree that there are flaws to it, definitely. But it can just keep you, you know, in contact with people you're currently with, or sort of, you
Yeah.
know, with old friends, and
Yeah.
sort of revamps. And now she's, you know, my closest friend. So I
That's
just, we always
amazing.
think that's really interesting, actually.
So
But,
using
yeah.
things for the good, and
Absolutely.
being aware of the negative, and then doing something about it, I think that's amazing. And I'm really, really glad I didn't have that pressure as a teenager. Just
Well,
saying.
you had other pressures. You had other pressures.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I suppose so. Being bored quite a lot.
Yeah,
That was, when I think back to the 70s, most of it was just revolved around me.
Oh, really?
There was quite a lot of being bored. But actually, sometimes being bored's quite good for you, I think. You know, I think sometimes maybe this is a more mature lady's take on it.
I think I know what you're going to say.
There's almost too much going on, and we're all there's. It feels like it's so many things fighting for everyone's attention. I think that's incredibly stressful. Whereas I think actually just kicking around, you know, mucking around in the garden with not much to do, I think you sort of go inward a bit.
Yeah,
perhaps
100%.
a little
And
bit.
that's sort of what I was going to say, actually. There's this actually podcaster and YouTuber, Emma, great name, Emma Chamberlain, who's really popular with my generation. She's not like my favourite, but I do like her. I like what her whole thing is about being, you know, not wearing makeup, and I'm kind of just like you, but she actually is like you. Do you know? Well, she is famous, but she's not like pretending to be like you. She actually shows her bad moments and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, she has lots of really good like clips which people take from her podcast, and then they'll do a video to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And there was like quite a popular one going around recently, which I really liked, where it's saying, make yourself be bored, because when you are bored, you'll find a new passion. And she just explained it in a really good way.
Yeah,
saying if you feel like, you know, you hate everything and everything's all, oh, I don't really have anything I like to do, make yourself be bored. Just sit down in a room and you will find some kind of passion. And that's interesting. I guess, like with social media, when you are bored, and I'm very guilty of this, it's the endless scroll. You go and you scroll.
Yeah.
And you're almost, it's like your boredom is kind of like killed, but you're not doing anything productive about it. Whereas if you are making yourself bored, sitting down in a room, literally doing nothing, something most likely will come out of that.
Yeah.
So again, it's that, like,
I think that's a really good description.
Honesty.
I got this sort of analogy in my head when you were just talking about the scrolling and everything. It's like being really hungry, but eating something that takes away your hunger, but it doesn't really nourish you. With the scrolling, it like stops you feeling hungry.
Yeah.
But it's not
like
feeding
fast
you.
food, or
Yeah,
instead of like a
exactly.
really nice salad.
It's like eating
or
a bowl of
something.
crisps or something.
Yeah.
It's easy, it's accessible,
And it
but
feels
it's not
like
nutritious.
it's killed it.
Yeah.
But on a deep level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I like that. That's fun.
Cool. Excellent. So I think I've got this theory, which this conversation fits into a bit, which is we are getting a lot less formal as a civilization, I would say. Certainly in my experience. So I've been alive for 57 years and I can remember a lot of that. And in that time, the way we speak has become more relaxed, the way we dress, even the way we garden. I've got some gardening books from the 50s, and there's these lovely gentlemen and they've got suits on with waistcoats and gold fob watches, and they're double digging trenches, you know. And now we sort of, I'm out there in my sort of pajamas sometimes gardening. So I think, you know, the way we speak back in the 50s, it was the Queen's English, like the BBC, it was terribly like this, and we're much more relaxed in how we speak. And I can remember the first time casual Fridays were brought into offices, which was shocking because people were wearing their jeans to work, and it was like, oh my God, that's so shocking. So I think there's been this sort of deformalization, this of the way we live, and I think that's really good, in my opinion. And I'd be really interested in your opinion, because for me, being more relaxed is more about being yourself, whereas formality is often we're hiding behind something. We're hiding behind some, you know, etiquette of this is how you should speak and this is how you should dress.
Definitely.
Whereas perhaps being relaxed is more, this is who I am. I don't know. Is that how you feel?
100%. I think we are getting more informal, and I think that's really good. But interestingly, just the way you explain that, saying hiding behind almost this fake persona, interestingly, that's like the social media, isn't it? Because
exactly.
I think, you know, we're still humans living on Earth, so we're always going to have, you know, do you know what I mean? Not so great moments, whatever. So it's interesting. I agree. Definitely, for the most part, we have become more informal and more ourselves and less hidden. But I think what's interesting is maybe that hidden persona, which was the clothes, is now on Instagram. However,
interesting.
and I have talked to, which is not so good, but however, what I do think is really good, and I've talked about this with you before, is that I don't think social media was made for the best purposes, if I'm honest. However, what I do really like is people are taking their own power back.
Love
and
it.
we're sort of annoyed, like, oh, social media is a bit crap hiding behind this. So we're saying, you know what?
Forget
We
that.
can do, we're the people
Yeah.
on social media, let's change that.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like that viral sound of Emma Chamberlain saying be bored, and then it's like this inspirational video of
Yeah.
like finding a new hobby. And random, but this comes to mind, there's Doja Cat, who I quite like actually, probably I'm guessing haven't even heard of her, which is fine, which is absolutely fine.
Of course I haven't.
Actually she quit recently, but she's a singer, and she has this song where it says it's actually divine feminine, but people thought it was define feminine.
Okay.
I'm feminine, so it goes divine feminine, I'm feminine, whoa. And people used that sound, and we sort of took our own back, because I think everyone, of course, but well, maybe it's just because I am a woman, but I think from a woman's perspective, social media has been a bit hard on us, and maybe
more
you know,
judgy.
maybe I only think that because I'm a woman, but you know, like the body standard,
Yes.
which obviously men have as well, but I think women have it quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it was like them taking their own power back. Like, for example, I'm sure in your generation, well, I'm not sure, but I imagine in your generation, armpit hair is like...
It was like a big no-no. I can
Freak,
remember,
you know,
oh my God,
yeah.
I can remember probably in the 90s, who's the lady?
Oh,
that
I know.
She's in Pretty Woman,
Yes.
that actress.
No, not Pretty Woman. Do you
No.
mean Devil Wears Prada?
No.
Oh,
no.
oh,
So it
maybe
must
it's a
have been
different one then.
I could never have
Anne
read.
Hathaway.
Oh.
I remember one from Anne Hathaway.
Okay, then I remember one from.
Oh,
she was.
her.
Yes,
The
can't
main
remember.
one?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Julia
In
Roberts.
Julia Roberts.
That's the one.
Thank you for putting me out of my agony. Well, my memory's terrible, but I remember it as Julia Roberts, so I apologise profusely if
two.
it wasn't. It could have happened. But she was on the catwalk, on the red carpet, going to some kind of premiere, and she waved like this and had under, and it was literally headline news. Can you imagine? Like, who knows what was happening that was really important in the world? Apparently, nothing more important than somebody's underarm hair,
Yeah, which is
was
perfectly normal. And
exactly.
men have, but men
I
don't
know,
get
it's
that.
so
and it's
strange, isn't
crazy,
it?
isn't
It
it?
is weird.
Is it a red shirt? Do you remember by any chance?
I remember her wearing a ball gown.
Oh,
actually.
well, maybe it's two people then.
Yeah,
'cause
maybe.
Anne Hathaway had one. She was.
I
Wearing
could
a
be
red
completely
shirt.
wrong, but I remember her wearing a black gown, and she had this beautiful updo, kind of beehive
That is a different
hair.
one then. Yeah. Mine was the one I saw was very casual.
It's entirely
actually.
possible I've dreamt that, I have to say. But
Well, no, I don't think
but,
so.
yeah,
But anyway, so for example, that has
Yes.
been like a big
yeah, for
societal
women.
no-no for women.
Yeah.
Whereas just one example, first thing that comes to mind with the, it's actually divine, but define feminine, I'm feminine, whoa, with that sound, is it be just women saying define feminine, I'm feminine, and then it be them showing their underarms,
yeah.
saying, I'm not ashamed of it.
And that, it doesn't
you know?
stop me being a woman because I've got underhair.
Exactly. I define-
underarm hair.
I get you. But it's taking the power pack, saying
Yeah.
define feminine, I'm feminine
Yeah,
with my underarm hair.
absolutely.
And what I love about it and what makes me really happy is, you know, I remember the other day I was scrolling Instagram, and it was just this woman, it had nothing to do with her underarms, and she just went like that, and then she had a bit of hair, and none of the comments mentioned it.
Amazing.
Not even one, because it was just, she was
Oh.
just talking about,
That makes me feel like we're making progress.
Definitely.
You know,
I
which
don't
is
know what it
lovely.
was, but say she was talking about her hair, she went like this, and usually you would click on the comments, and it'd be like, oh, shave your, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
not even one.
Oh,
Not
that's
even one. And that
really
made me
great.
really excited.
Oh, that's
Just-
amazing. No, that's really cool.
So,
I was
yeah.
just thinking what we were saying about fashion and how it's becoming less formal and maybe less, you know, when I think about trends, say, you know, I was kind of in the 80s, which has sort of recently been recycled, hasn't it? I was kind of a young person in the 80s. And so it was all kind of puffball skirts and dressing up like pirates and
Pirates?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
You did. It was a whole
What
thing.
would you wear?
So I wasn't kind of into that bit of it, but people did. So there was a band called Duran Duran.
Yes, I know that.
And
Love it.
yeah, so they were. In fact, I think they were called New Age Pirates, or
Oh.
they're not that band, but the fashion movement. And people would literally. There was a guy called Adamant as well, who was a bit piratey. So it was lots of white frilly shirts.
Oh, Boy
and-
George.
Boy George
He
was
did a bit
a
pirate.
little bit maybe, yes, but I think the main ones were Duran Duran. I would say very piratey. Yeah, New Romantics. It was that was the kind of sort of fashion at the time.
Interesting.
Anywho, the interesting thing is, we were all feeling like we were sort of being terribly rebellious because we were dressing up like pirates or whatever. But the actual fact is, we were all still wearing a uniform because
Yeah.
we were all looking
It's
like
interesting.
pirates or
Yeah,
wearing
yeah,
puffball
yeah.
skirts. And I feel that's broken down a bit. You know, this
Mm.
idea that, you know, if you think back to like the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, hems on skirts and dresses would all go up and down in unison.
Same time.
You know,
I
so-
think that's so interesting.
and that's
Yeah.
all slightly broken down, which I really like because I feel that's more individual then. On the other
100%.
hand, I know something you've spoken to me about before, which I really understand, is that in a way there's another human beings. I think maybe they like to belong to tribes as well.
100%.
So even within the
yeah.
relaxed genre, there's sportswear, isn't there, and
definitely,
brands and all
yeah.
of that, which is maybe another way of doing the same sort of thing.
Definitely.
perhaps.
Do you know what? I think about this a lot. So would you say, I really want to get better at my fashion history, as you know, I'm very interested in it. So would you say, from your perspective, in like the 50s, that there kind of was just one look? Or was there a few looks and you would choose, like aesthetics, we would call it nowadays?
Yes, I think there was.
Or was there a few? Was it just one?
I think there was more of a trickle down.
Okay.
So in the 50s, there was something called a new look, which
Yes,
came in.
that lovely
And
dress.
with that
yeah.
really nipped-in waist and these really big, sort of generous Christian Dior kind of skirts.
Yes.
And that's where you see these beautiful fashion illustrations of women sort of at impossible angles,
Yes.
looking, you know, all done with a paintbrush and really fluid. And that was very sort of to do with society, because after the 50s came, of course, after the war. And during wartime, fabric had been very, well, it was rationed. So you
literally.
couldn't get hold of it. So all the fashions were very using as little fabric as possible, but
interesting,
in as
isn't it?
modest as possible. And then I think that sort of new look was about celebrating being able to have all this fabric. And I think in that period of history, it was quite socially engineered in that wealthy people could afford that new look, partly because it was lots of fabric.
Yeah, like
But
kings and queens. When you think
yeah,
about that, they wear like
literally.
massive like
Yeah.
shoulders just because they can.
Exactly. So it would be like couture, posh people would have that, and it would gradually sort of filter down through the kind of social layers.
Yeah.
Which I hope, as the whole social layers thing is a bit more broken down now
I think so.
than it was
yeah.
then. So I think when you're saying was there more than one aesthetic, I think it was really different. I think there was less room to be yourself.
Interesting.
And I've definitely heard this, and I haven't got any evidence to prove it, I'm afraid, but I seem to remember reading that there's an interesting inversely proportional, that means upside down, relationship between skirt and dress hem lengths and the economy.
Yes. Same
So-
with heels.
Oh, really?
Yes, I saw a
Oh.
YouTube video on it, I think.
So I think
it
in the
was heels. I
60s,
thought it
when the
was
economy was
fascinating.
booming, skirts go up, which is the opposite to what you think. And then, like in the 70s, where the economy was not doing so well, skirts came down.
Which I agree is the opposite of what you think, and also at the same time exactly what you think, because if you think about sort of self-esteem,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I can show off my legs,
Yeah,
you know, I'm
exactly.
feeling confident,
Yeah.
whereas, oh, don't look at my legs, you
Yeah.
know, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is also the opposite, because like fabric is more expensive when there's
Yeah.
more of it, so in a
Yeah.
way it is the opposite.
I know.
But in a self-esteem way, which
Yes.
is what fashion is all about, your self-expression.
Well, you're portraying something to the world. You're saying something,
Definitely.
and even people who don't like fashion, which is fine. Every choice you make, I think, about what you wear, people will judge you on the back of that.
Exactly,
won't they?
I think about that too. Even if you make the choice to not care about it,
Yeah.
it's a bit like that.
That in
scene-
itself is a choice.
Exactly,
Isn't it?
it's a bit like that scene in Devil Wears Prada. You know, there's that really famous one where actually it is exactly like that. You know, when Miranda, the main one, is saying, "Oh, it's funny you chose that blue jumper
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like the most famous scene out of the
Yeah,
whole
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
you think it's not a choice when actually that's been chosen for you
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
and it's like ooh,
And that was
backwards.
my experience, because I was working in the fashion industry in the sort of 90s and early noughties, 2000s, and
We don't have that word.
No, do you?
No,
I thought I was being really cool by saying it. Oh, curses!
No, as I've mentioned before, which is quite confusing, that's the good generation gap. we would call that the Y2K.
Okay.
Which has nothing to do with computers.
Yeah,
That just
yeah.
means fashion.
Yeah,
Y2K is
okay.
early 2000s.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and remember that. So I was in the fashion industry in the Y2K. Oh, I've completely forgotten.
Oh, sorry.
What was I talking about?
Oh my god, what were we talking
Oh,
about?
it doesn't matter.
Oh, making the choice to not like fashion
Oh, yes,
is actually
yes.
a choice.
Thank you for reminding me. And there was something that's talked about, literally that scene you were just describing in Devil Wears Prada, and that was definitely my experience, that it's like everything had a bit of time attached to it, in that the people who make the fashion are 6 months behind the people who made the fabric, who was 6 months behind the people who made the dyes, who was 6 months behind the people who chose. So when I was working in the fashion industry, then you'd always be working about 18 months ahead
Yes.
of when you were actually selling the clothes. And I know that there's been a huge change in that. In Zara, for instance, you
That's
can
true.
see
Fast
some
fashion, we
yeah,
call that,
you
yeah.
see that on the runway, and within 6 weeks it can be in the shop. It's incredible, isn't it?
Ridiculous, isn't it? It's
amazing.
crazy.
Yeah.
Which in a way is lovely, but I know it's not the best for the planet.
And at what
but
price do the people making
That's
it?
true. That's a good point, actually. Ethically, that's a very good point.
Yeah, but
But it's an interesting, so
Yeah.
that's interesting how that has differed as well. Because I know you used to work at M&S, so I know you said that it would be that delay.
Yes.
So was that in, like, say, the 90s? Was that every shop had
well,
that delay?
it's a really good question, because no, I think it was particularly a shop which prided itself on the quality being sort of bulletproof, and everything got tested, and even back in the sort of Y2K and the 90s, we were trying to speed that up, because we were aware of shops coming in in those years. Zara was very new,
But they were still, Zara was still longer than it is today, though.
I don't.
Would you say,
It was pretty
or-
quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was. I mean, it's without really getting boring, it was a vertical company, so they owned all these layers.
Oh, okay.
Whereas a lot of fashion people were buying their fabric from someone. So it makes it much quicker if you own all those different layers. And you can just control everything.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But just going back to what we were talking about, so as you said, it's not the same, but for example in the 50s with the new look, it's interesting, you say there's a trickle-down effect.
Yes.
So in a way it kind of is the same aesthetic,
Yeah.
but more like watered down.
Yes.
Whereas I think about this a lot, I think it's really interesting. I always wonder, like, you look at like a book or like a YouTube video saying this was the popular trend in the 1960s.
Yes.
I always wonder, what are people going to do for 2020
Yeah.
era, obviously
Yeah.
2022. Because what I love about it is that there are so many aesthetics,
Yes.
especially, I mean, from my perspective, I would say especially in the last sort of 5 years, like quite recent. I can't name them all, but there's like, my aesthetic, which is, I would call the soft girl aesthetic, which is pastel colours and quite feminine. And then there's like baddie aesthetic, which is a bit more, what's the word? Scandalous is wrong. But like, slightly shorter skirts and feminine, but a bit more sort of like...
Edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got like fairy core, which is like greens and like browns, and interestingly like really long skirts,
Yeah.
which I think of as slightly older women,
Yeah.
whereas now that's like a really trendy thing. So there's so many aesthetics, which I think is really lovely,
Yeah.
because it's really reflecting your own self, image. So I just always wonder, how are people gonna label
It's interesting.
2020?
Well, thinking back to when I was working in the industry, we were definitely developing more than one trend at a time. So there'd be like, nautical and, the horrible word ethnic, which
Yeah.
never really meant anything,
Yeah.
but it was sort of other cultures. So yes, you'd work on more than one trend, and I think that's been around for a little while.
Okay,
I
cool.
do.
Interestingly, from my perspective, like when you walk down the street, I
Oh,
like to see it. You see, like,
Yeah.
it's not everyone wearing the same length skirt.
No.
It's like it's completely different.
I think
which
that
is
started
really
to
fun.
break down in probably the 80s, I would say.
Really? 'Cause
Yeah.
for me, it's like the last 5 years.
Yeah, no,
My perspective, which I could be
I
wrong.
think it's become much more exaggerated now, but I think that was, so not everybody would have been wearing puffball skirts. It would have been the kind of cool kids, probably at that. And I think maybe what happens with the sort of 90s and the Y2K is that it's the most popular trends that become
Yeah.
famous, and there probably were other trends around.
Yes.
But it's the
that
ones you
makes
see in the
sense.
history books
Yes.
are the ones that are the sort of, probably the ones that were on pop videos. You know, the ones
Yeah.
that get the most sort of...
Which nowadays is celebrities.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's
yeah.
first thing that comes to mind, you know, there's certain dresses celebrities wear, like Kendall Jenner wore this sunny, I think it's called, something sunny dress. And to be honest, I don't think it's the most pretty dress, but like everyone was wearing it because Kendall
Yeah,
Jenner
it's
wore it,
interesting.
which is my generation's version of
Yeah.
like.
But interestingly,
singers.
I would say that's been around. See, it's the word.
But that's what I mean.
yeah.
But it's on social media
Yes.
instead of being on
Yes.
TV, which I
Yes.
agree is the same thing, but it's its
Absolutely.
own generation.
Because you could take that right back to even like Elizabethan times.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
With oil
Yeah,
paintings,
yeah.
you know.
Exactly.
I want what she's got. They probably couldn't have afforded it, but so I think people have always liked to sort of an aspirational role model to look up to with style and fashion, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, and I agree, I do think nowadays it's less because for
I think
me,
that's great.
I actually don't have a fashion role model. Like, I think a lot of people do, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I actually don't have a person where I'm like, oh, what are they wearing? Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. I
Yeah.
don't have that. I just genuinely like pastel colours
Yeah.
and
Because you feel
Which
it
is
says something
interesting.
about who you are as an individual.
absolutely,
Which is
yeah.
really cool.
Which I feel like, in my perspective, is more exaggerated recently.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Do you think what effect, we were talking about lockdown earlier and sort of COVID and everything, did that have any effect on fashion, do you think? Did you notice that in your generation?
Well, during lockdown, as you know, obviously there was like the lockdown fashion where it was like, actually I never got into, because if I where you have the joggers on your bottom half and then
Yeah.
you've got like a suit
Because
on
you're,
the top
you're
half.
on
Yeah, exactly.
Zoom.
Which actually I never got into because I found it hard to like be at school on
Yeah.
Zoom if I had joggers on. I'm like, oh no, I'm at home. So
Yeah.
so that's interesting in a
Yeah.
way. Like people say, if you have like a phone interview, you should wear a suit.
Yeah, because it gets you in the
whatever.
in the zone.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's interesting in itself, because I didn't even wear joggers once during lockdown because I thought it would make me too sort of
Yeah.
lazy. And
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Anyway, so I think lockdown fashion during COVID definitely, I think, was a thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because I've sort of really become more interested in fashion during and after.
Yeah.
So
And
it's hard to compare.
And the amazing thing is, how long has it been? 3 years, has
Yeah.
it? You know, I can't quite
Feels
believe
so
it.
long, but also so short.
I know. But 3 years for you is a big chunk of your life.
That's
Let's
true.
be honest.
Yeah.
You know, you were 14 going into it,
Yeah.
were you? Or you must have been.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and yet at age 57, 3 years goes
Not that
by
much,
in a wink of an eye, and you haven't changed that much. You know,
Mm.
let's apart from putting on a bit of lockdown weight,
Oh,
which I will be
Nothing.
losing throughout this podcast series. You will see me shrinking radically
to a little twig.
till I'm the size of Milo. Oh, Milo always wears the same outfit, don't you, Milo?
Yes. That's interesting too. Is has this been a thing generally, like around for a while, or maybe it's just a social media thing? Like it's really frowned upon to wear the same outfit.
Oh, really?
Twice. Yeah.
Really?
frowned upon. Like, wow. Day to day, people don't really care, but like in the fashion,
Yeah.
industry, and if you're like a fashion influencer,
Yeah.
you can't wear the same thing.
I think that has been. I think that's it is a bit of pressure from the fashion
Mm.
industry because, of course, they want
you
to
want
sell
to buy,
more clothes.
yeah. they
But
want you to
yes,
buy.
I can remember when I was working at M&S, I had a friend who was hilarious and quite camp and fabulous. And one of his favourite sayings he was the master of the kind of damning you with faint praise. So he would say, "Darling, oh, that looks fantastic on you. It's wonderful. I never tire of seeing you in it." Which is a sort of bitchy
That
way of
kind of
saying, yeah,
compliment,
you wear it all the time. So yes,
So there you go. So that
I think that
been sort of
has been a thing. Yes,
Interesting.
perhaps. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
I
Yeah.
don't know, I just find it really interesting. I agree. Fashion definitely says a lot about who you are
Yes.
and who you want to be. And like in films, as you know, I've talked to you about it before, like Mean Girls, for example. Someone did a breakdown video for that and I thought it was so interesting. Like, people's jobs is, what do they call it? Like a
Stylist.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. like a clothes stylist in a film,
Yeah.
and like how Regina
Wardrobe.
George, yeah, I can't think of the word, but like Regina George, the main character, who's a bit of a bitch, but she's like the main one. She wears a collar in the first episode, so you know she's in charge, and the others aren't wearing collars.
Yeah.
I just think the psychology is really interesting.
It is.
And like we
I
say
agree.
with the skirt lengths. And,
Yeah, it is.
It's very fascinating.
At the end of the day, I think clothes, which is what fashion is, it's always going to be a reflection of how people are feeling. You know, I think back to in the 90s, I can remember Nehru collars, which these lovely stand-up sort of, I associated them with the country of India. This traditional, really sort of lovely collar that stands up rather than down.
I don't know if I've seen
And they became really popular because there was a film about India. I think it was Passage to India, and everybody loved that film, and they all wanted to start wearing the clothes that reminded them of the film. So I think that's a really interesting example of how it's just a barometer of what people are feeling about themselves and about, you know, like I think it's really good that we're getting into sustainability, and it's really good that people are getting more, I think, respectful
Conscious.
of handmade things as well, things that human beings have invested
This is
time
from
and
Etsy,
effort.
so someone's made this.
Yeah, and
think
I
so.
like that, and I love that people are getting into smaller sellers. As someone who has
100%.
worked in the big scale thing, so I can't be a total hypocrite, but you know, here we are now in the 2022, and I love buying things from small sellers when you get little notes in the parcel and
more
you've-
personalised.
more personal.
Yeah.
I love that, and that's something that I'd like to see more of,
Which
going
I think
forwards.
is becoming more, and
Yeah.
I love that too. Just the difference, like you were saying the other day, how some bigger companies will say your purchase has been successful,
Yeah,
and then smaller companies will say thank you so much.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you can talk directly to the person, like on, you know, my rings are from Etsy, so this one was from Spain, just an Etsy seller in Spain, so I just messaged them just saying, oh, thank you so much, can't wait for it to get here, and then we just had a really quick conversation, saying,
Yeah.
oh, thank you so much for buying it.
It's like you're dealing with a human being and not like
Yeah.
a faceless corporation, and that, I hope that's where we're going.
Yes.
Because I think that's a really, really beautiful thing, actually. So yeah, hurrah to that! Hurrah, hurrah!
Amazing. Well, I think that's a good place to end it
Yeah, I
then.
do too. Well, I've really enjoyed. So what have we talked about? We've talked about. We sort of ended up talking a lot about fashion.
Fashion, which I talk about all the time.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. But it's interesting to think about the more the social side of it and the
100%.
implications of it,
The
and
psychology of it.
the idea of getting more relaxed,
Yeah.
less formal. I think that's
think
really
so.
interesting.
And like you said, just going back to the start, actually, I was going to ask you, this might be a silly question. Has slang always been a thing?
yes, I would
Yes.
say so. Yes.
So what would, like, obviously slang is definitely, well, you have normal slang and then you have text slang, which
Yeah.
we could do an episode on that. Like, be like, what does this mean,
Oh,
Mum?
no. If you want to laugh, you're just trying to make the old lady look
Why
silly.
did I
but-
test you with
Go on
some?
then. Go on
Okay.
then.
BRB.
So that must be an abbreviation.
Yes, they're all abbreviations.
Okay. BRB. Be real baby.
B is right.
Ah. Be ready. Be right back. I'm so with
Yeah,
it.
that wasn't bad.
He took me 3 goes.
Yeah, but it's BRB. It could be bananas. Really.
It took me about
bubbly.
two years to work out that LOL wasn't love you lots.
Oh
Not love you lots. Anyway,
No.
lots of love.
Exactly.
I thought it was lots of love.
I
and then
know, and that's the thing, because my generation always talk about that, and it's funny how I've seen so many posts.
I did work it out in the end.
Yeah.
But
But I've seen so many posts on Instagram where it's like, this, you know.
something really serious.
Yeah. It's like,
Like, I'm sorry,
grandma's
your
died. I've seen that about 4 times. Like, grandma's died. LOL, and then the skull face emoji, which
Yeah.
to my generation means laughing.
Yeah.
So it's saying grandma's died, lol.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing, isn't it? Something so simple like that
Like an
completely
emoji.
changes the whole thing.
Because to be honest, we're wrong. We're always like, those old people, they're wrong. No, we're wrong. It's a skull.
You're
Why
not.
does that mean
You're
funny?
not wrong. Nobody's wrong. I
That's
think
true.
it's just. I think language evolves.
Yeah,
and I think that's
100%.
really healthy. I think going back to what we were saying about being more or less formal, I think it's right that it doesn't get sort of frozen in aspect. And
That's
you know,
true.
there's only
That's
one way of
true.
doing things. But yeah,
Yeah.
try me on
I was
another
going
one.
to say, I think I might have told you this one. Well, actually, you would say this is a word, but so ILY, illy.
I think you did tell me, and
I
I've
think
got.
I did.
I can't remember.
There you go.
ILY.
Hit me with it.
I like you.
Very close.
Ah!
Very close. First and second right. I and you is right.
Okay.
Very close. That was good.
I love you.
Yeah!
I probably on some level I perhaps remembered that.
Well,
I don't know.
Also,
Yeah.
that's a thing.
Okay.
That's how we do hearts. Straighten that one.
Oh, I don't know if I can.
It's weird at first.
Oh.
Yes! Yes!
Yay!
Because that was in for a while. No, like,
Oh.
that's it. Yeah, you got it. And now I don't even know why. See, it's interesting. It's like unspoken. No
Yeah.
one's ever had a discussion. Oh, this is it now.
Is it because you see it on other people's
Yeah.
social media and things?
Yeah, but it all kind of came out at the same time. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's how we do hearts now.
Oh gosh.
There you go. Yeah. Straighten that one a bit more.
It's hard.
It's hard because one's bent, one's straight.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's perfect.
Oh, thank you.
And confusingly, we do that, which is half a heart, but that
Yes.
just means heart.
Oh, I love
Which
that.
is so like illy. You wouldn't
Oh.
say illy. You'd more text it. But
Yeah.
like if I'm sending like a picture to someone, like one of my friends, I'd be like that.
Nice.
Which is half a heart. So you'd think it'd be like broken hearted, but it's not.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say like finish the heart, so then someone else will do that next to it, like on the phone
amazing.
screen. It'll be like a video like that, and it's saying like, "Oh,
Let's see if we
finish
can
the
do
heart."
it close up. So this one's
That's
straight.
it. Yes, and that's bent. Boom. See? It's really confusing at first.
Oh.
Anyway, I'll do one more.
Yes.
LMAO.
So-
LMAO.
LMAO. Laugh my arse off.
Yay! But very good. Interestingly, that one, LMAO and LOL, is very confusing. They're more words now.
Okay.
So when you say LOL,
it is.
ironically, it's actually switched now. LMAO is more funny than LOL,
Yes.
and we use them as words. So like you wouldn't say it in a sentence. You'd say LOL in a sentence. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting. All these unspoken rules.
Yeah.
But if you were texting LOL, it doesn't mean laughing out loud.
Okay.
It just means like, huh.
Oh,
Like, if
interesting.
someone says something
Yeah,
funny,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not
So
actually like, ha. I'm
it's-
just like, oh,
it's
that's funny.
evolved past even.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah.
become more subtle.
Interesting.
And then LMAO is something actually funny.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it doesn't. It's weird. It doesn't actually mean laughing my ass off. It's
Yeah.
just something like.
But that's
vaguely
perhaps
funny.
because LOL's been around quite a lot longer, hasn't it?
Exact-
So it's
yes.
had a chance to evolve.
And
yeah.
it's more of a word. Like you
Ah.
could say LOL.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think I did quite well on that.
I think you did great. No, that was really good.
I think probably you've told me some of those before and they've sort of retained. So
I think I've got one which I probably haven't told you.
Okay.
Just came to mind. SM.
and that is like something you'd put at the end of a text.
I'll say it in a sentence.
Okay.
Ooh, hold on. Ooh, give me a minute.
I think you're making it up.
I love sunsets. SM. You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say SM. It's just in a text.
Yeah. Save. No. Sweet. Smile. Something me
SM.
is the M for me. SM. See you. See you. I don't know.
That's
I
a
can't-
harder one.
Oh.
So much.
So much.
I love sunsets so much.
Oh.
So you can say ILYSM. I love you so much. So you can say that kind of thing.
Oh, well, I love you so much.
Illy SM, but you wouldn't
Illy
actually
SM.
say that. You wouldn't actually say that, but you would text that.
Amazing. Well, that was really useful. Thank you.
No problem at all.
I would love to do some more tests. And I was just thinking it might be a really nice finish to our chat to try and do a heart right up in the... should we try?
Yeah.
So I've got to bend this finger,
Straighten
do that one
That's it.
straight,
Boom.
and
It's
then
just
we
when you
can
first
see...
do it, it's hard. Yay!